It is November 19th, 2025, almost at 2024. And this is the first hallway hangout for the content creators group, which is like a new initiative about bringing together content creators across the WordPress space, getting resources, information, all that good stuff into the hands of people who talk about WordPress. And we are talking about content creation across mediums. And so part of why I thought it'd be cool to have this conversation is there really is such a breadth of folks who talk about WordPress and how they do it. And I think there's always an interesting thing with how mediums can both unleash certain things and restrict you in different ways. And I thought it would be neat to talk to people across a couple different mediums and see how they do it, what we can learn from each other, and what the unique stuff is there. So this is meant to be casual collaborative. So like this is not, I have questions because it's me. But let's have folks jump in. If we want to go on a side tangent, let's go on a side tangent. I just want to see where it takes us when we get these minds together. So I would like our little panel to introduce themselves. Let's go Ryan, Ray, Mark, and Matt. Can we go in that order?
Sure.
Sounds good.
My name is Ryan Melcher. I'm a developer advocate at Automatic. I am predominantly active on Twitch as my sort of my primary audience. And then YouTube is a close second, although I gear most of my content on my YouTube channel is mostly just repurposed versions of my streams. Yeah, but I've been streaming for about 4 years now, four and a bit. And it's been fun. It's been horribly humbling, but also very, very, very fun. So
And you're
I can't remember.
Canadian, which
Yeah,
is
and I'm
also
Canadian.
Mm.
Okay. So yeah, who is next? I don't remember.
Ray.
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 Hi all. My name's Ray Morey. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. So got my coffee. I published the repository. It started as a newsletter 6 years ago yesterday, and
Nice.
it covers WordPress news. And a year ago, I went full time with it, and now I'm covering more kind of longer form news in the ecosystem. Yeah,
6 years. Congrats. That's
thank
Happy
you. It's
birthday.
really
been
awesome.
Yeah, well
a
Yeah.
long
done.
Really, really
time.
awesome. Yeah. It's wild.
Sweet. Was I next? I think so. Yeah. Mark Smansky. I started an agency, like mainly WordPress agency in 2018. Then I was just like a part of WordPress, but kind of outside the community bubble. About losing track of time, getting sold. 2.5 years ago, that gentleman on the call here, Matt Medeiros, hit me up because I was making some YouTube videos, and he said, "Hey, you want to come on WP Minute?" And since then, I've just kind of like dove into the WordPress community a lot more, and my main YouTube channel kind of like speaks directly to my peers, I guess you could say, like people that are building in WordPress, trying to build agencies, freelancers, stuff like that. And I just try to help them technically, a little bit business wise, cover a few current things here and there, current events and such. But yeah, I just really like making videos and educating. So that's what I do there.
Love
Hey,
it.
Matt Medeiros started a podcast called Matt Report many years ago. Transitioned over to the WP Minute about 4.5 years ago. We publish content that informs, educates, and entertains WordPress professionals and getting into courses and community more firmly in 2026.
I love it. I'm writing down more questions as you all are talking. Like, how did you pick the name of things, the brand? I know, Mark, you've been on a journey with that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I guess to start, I would love to know how you all picked the medium that you're in, just like
Can
what the
I
thought process was.
can I introduce myself?
Oh, we're focused on the panel right now. Sorry. So, like, going through the
Oh,
people who, yeah, for each of the different
oh,
areas.
well,
Yeah, yeah,
carry
yeah.
on,
Yeah.
carry on.
So, who would like to go first with like how you landed on doing Twitch versus YouTube versus podcast versus news?
I can
I'm happy
start
to
if
go
nobody else wants
first.
to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Go right ahead.
I was a newspaper journalist in a previous life, so it was, I guess it felt only natural to publish articles in a blog style. So that's how I landed doing that. I've never been a podcaster or done video, so that feels very foreign to me. And I guess publishing on a blog or a website, publishing email isn't really that far removed. So that was it was a bit of an experiment starting my newsletter just in the beginning, and it was just something I tried, and it kind of worked through a lot of persistence and consistency. Yeah.
Ryan, you want to do it? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry, sure. Yeah, I started with Twitch just because I kind of noticed that there was not really much in the way of live stream coding, if that made sense. Like especially on the Twitch platform. It's predominantly for gaming, but there is a rather large group of people that do coding on Twitch, but nothing really in the WordPress space. I think I found one other person, maybe two other people, and I think they predominantly stream in German and maybe Spanish as well. So it felt like a really great way to sort of connect with some folks. And I found out really quickly that there was an appetite for it and that people liked having the video aspect of it, but also being able to pause me mid-sentence and ask a question. And so I was focused very heavily on block development and custom block development because that's sort of my wheelhouse. And it yeah, it just it was honestly it was an experiment. I had a YouTube channel and I thought, well, maybe I'll try YouTube and then blah blah blah. And then just part of the developer advocacy roles just seemed to make sense to try to meet people where they're at as far as like the online presence. And I found really quickly that I'm much better live than I am in a pre-recorded environment. I'm sure for anyone that's created videos here, uh, it feels a lot more authentic when I'm actually just rambling on about something like I'm doing now, or rather than trying to read a script. So, anyways, that's how I ended up in Twitch.
Nice. Matt, you want to go?
I got into it when I started a WordPress agency, and I was trying to figure out how to run a WordPress agency and how to meet folks in the community. And there was a gentleman named Jake Goldman who was in my local meetup at the time, and he was starting a WordPress agency, and he was growing at an exceptional clip, and I was wondering how to do the same. And I wasn't an engineer like Jake, but or engineer that's what he was at the time. I probably wouldn't call himself that today, but I wanted to learn how he was doing it, and the only way I knew how was to talk to people. And it was going to be a blog, and it ended up being a podcast. I don't know why I started a podcast, but audio has been core to creating content for me for all of these years, and sort of branched more omni-channel when I was taking the WP Minute a little bit more serious. But that's how I got into podcasting proper.
I love
Shout
that you
out to Jason on
forgot
that.
like why that you like I don't know why
It's been so long.
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah, how
so
long have you been doing? I mean, I feel like it's been forever.
I
Like
think
how many years?
17 years.
Yeah, I'm like that's I was
Yeah.
about to say.
Yeah.
Very
Like when
OG.
I started YouTube, like it was you could only record like 15 minutes on an SD card
Wow.
before the camera melted.
Damn dog.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, so I never had a blog or anything. I think it's probably because like I hated English class when I was in high school. I just didn't read any of the books and didn't like writing. So I never really had too much of a blog. I never really went with that medium. I just remember you could actually scroll all the way back on my channel, videos in my car driving to my job when I was like 22 or 23, just like making random videos about just kind of like stuff that I'm feeling. It was kind of like business oriented a little bit, psychology, stuff like that. So I just have always loved that, probably because I just enjoy rambling and talking. And from that kind of stemmed a little bit into conversating with people because I like learning and I'm curious about people's like origin stories and stuff. So I've had several stints in podcasting as well. And then eventually when it got to the WordPress specific content as I was building the business, and trying to educate people is just because honestly, I was watching other WordPress creators and I was like, I've learned a lot from these guys, but now I have my own opinions that I'd like to share. And that's kind of how it continued to blossom into like specific video, mainly on YouTube and live streams initially, as well. So yeah, it's always been video and audio for me. Um, that's just how it's been.
Ooh, okay, raise your hand if you're an extrovert.
I feel like I might be. I don't know.
Might be. Okay, I'm just curious. I'm like fascinated by I'm convinced it's like an extrovert thing. It's like I have a friend who's an external processor and she like walks around and talks to herself. And I keep being like, you gotta do a podcast. Like you just love to
If
talk and like talk things
if
through. It's such a
if that's the
skill.
signal, if talking to yourself's the signal, I'm definitely an extrovert. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really funny. Yeah. That's a random side
My
question.
wife literally just busted me doing that like 5 minutes ago. I was walking into the house. My office is sort of, I have to leave my house to go back into my house to get to my office. And
Amazing.
I was walking in front of my garage to go in the door. And I don't know what I was doing, but I was like on a mission to go inside. And then I'm like rambling to myself. And she opens the car door and goes, "Who are you talking to?" I was like, "No one, shut up." Then I like ran in the house.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, don't worry about that. That's my
That's
other me.
so funny. And
Yeah.
my friend will go on walks and just hold her phone up. So it at least looks like she's talking to someone, but it's just
Oh,
herself.
that's brilliant.
It's
I
amazing.
love
I'm like,
that.
just record yourself. You'd have a great time. Um, I'm curious. I'm gonna paste the questions in just so I don't lose track of them either. But I'm curious to know like what the process is for coming up with content ideas and what seems to perform the best right now, especially with the different mediums. Like Ray, it sounds like you've ventured more into like longer form. Like I know I've really appreciated that about the repository. Like how did that happen? Like how do you all kind of, yeah, I would love to hear people's answers to this.
Yeah, I ventured into longer form articles last year. I think after Sarah Gooding left WP Tavern, I constantly had people badgering me about about applying for that job and also just reporting more because I was already starting to with my newsletter. After she left, I had no one to reference in my newsletter, so
Mm.
my little news stories were getting longer and longer and longer, and my newsletter was getting longer, and it was just getting a bit ridiculous. And so last year I went to WordCamp Asia in Taiwan, and it was my first flagship in a very long time. I live in Melbourne. It's so hard to get out of Australia to go anywhere, and I just met so many folks who were just so encouraging of the repository, and I was just hating my government job at the time, and I thought, ah, screw it, I'm just going to go all in with doing the repository. So I took a leave. I went on a big European holiday, came back in at the end of September, early October last year, right into everything that's been going on, and went full time with it. And uh, hang on, what was the question again? Are we looking at process? We're coming up with the content ideas, or just
Yeah, anything. This is, we can go down side tangents. It's welcomed. But yeah, just content that performs well. Like what? Yeah,
oh, content that performs
yeah.
well? I think it's been a really interesting time for looking at what content performs well for me. Folks are definitely interested. I think I'm one of the only people who's really delving into what's happening with the legal battle at the moment. So that performs well for me. Not that I like covering that all the time. It's very time consuming. I've also found, interestingly, stories about sustainability perform really
Mm.
well, environmental sustainability. Not that there's much to write about at the moment, but those are some of my top performing stories. So that's an interesting one. And also, I guess stories around people are just curious about what other people are doing in the space. So, how people are running their businesses. People want to know how much people are earning and how they're doing with with their companies and their products and how they're using tools and resources. So those stories perform really well on my site. Um, and also good news stories. People are tired of all the negativity and reading about. It was interesting. I did a my annual survey in August. I send a survey out to subscribers every year, and I asked people what they're really interested to hear more about. 50% of people said they wanted to hear about AI, and 50% said they were over it. So that was an
Good
interesting
luck with that.
stat to hear back. Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, AI was going to be one of my questions, like how that's kind of getting involved. But yeah, I'm curious to hear from others, either question, anything that sparked your interest from what Ray said.
I find for me that the process of coming up with content is is different than like I'm on a timeline. Like I stream every
Mm.
week at 10:30, and like I know that we all have deadlines, and I'm sure we all have like a uh sort of like a media schedule that we try to keep to. But I find that like it's very loose topics. But the ones that seem to get the most response, and by response I mean like live response. My videos don't like all of my streams go up live to, they're live on YouTube, but they also stay up there as live videos. And so I do get some like after the fact watching, but usually it's the deep dives into code things like the interactivity API is one that I'm doing right now. And then one of the best performers was how to make a custom block that had more than one, or sorry, a plugin with more than one custom block in it, which was it still is a number one performer in YouTube, which is hilarious because you don't even need to do anything, and that just works out of the box now. But yeah. So for me, it's like it's coming up with new topics every week, but they have to be loose enough that I can pivot because usually I'll start doing something and then immediately get hijacked by a question in chat or someone will post a link and I'll go down that rabbit hole. So yeah.
How do you stay up to date? Are you trolling GitHub, just like looking at what's being done, or?
Yes and no. I mean, a lot of times that doesn't really like because we're so like in my role as you know, and like we're so tied to the release schedule, like we know what's coming out. I
Mhm.
mean, like there's a release poster on like what's being targeted for like 6.9, like so all the abilities, API stuff, the interactivity changes, block bindings, APIs, all that sort of stuff. We kind of know what's coming. So we're able to I tend to target that sort of stuff. It's kind of like education piece first, and then try to make something fun out of it too. Because like people, it's one thing to like be like, yeah, we're gonna talk about code for an hour. Come hang out with me. But if it's boring, no one's gonna hang out. So that's why I always think my streams are ridiculous because I probably spend a third of the time writing code and the rest of the time just making ridiculous jokes and trying to keep people interested in what I'm doing. So yeah.
And I saw
Uh,
you're doing one around like using every single feature of the interactivity API,
yeah,
and I was like, that's a challenge. That's
that's what I'm
cool.
trying to do right now. But it's impossible because I've gotten like two directives finished. Because every time I get on stream, someone's like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And then I go off on a tangent. So, anyways,
It's funny.
I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, as far as things that perform, the niche that I've kind of currently found myself in is because I was like an agency owner and more of like I would say like a WordPress power user, but not a developer, more in that like page builder realm. A lot of that type of content, people are just like really, really into that. They love the tutorial style where, maybe like, somebody like Ryan is like deeper into the code than like I would be, but I'm a little deeper than, kind of just like the surface level kind of general, kind of like a WordPress layperson, like, that middle ground there where it's like a freelancer agency owner building sites for clients and stuff. Those types of videos just do generally pretty well. As long as you package them okay and like there's an actual thing that's being achieved in the video. Um, Generally people just love to learn. Like that's the space we're in. We're like with a lot of people that just enjoy the idea of getting their hands dirty and kind of doing that technical stuff. So that's like a huge one. The question about where do I kind of get my ideas to? A lot of it comes from our audience, really. I mean, it's kind of like what Ryan said. If it's not live stream though, it's probably in like the comment of a YouTube video. It's like, oh, that was cool. Thanks for that topic, that tutorial. But can you do it like this or with this other tool or something? It's like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go check that one out and that'll be the next video. And then also like a lot of the stuff that I've created has come from client work as well. So that's why I'm hesitant to ever really kind of step away from that because it's such a good source of like learning and content because that's like you're literally boots on the ground there. So you can kind of share that with other people that are trying to do the same things as you.
I really feel that with the content that you create, that the boots on the ground feeling. Like, I
Yeah.
think that that's a cool, yeah, it's a cool aspect how you've been doing it.
Yep.
Do you ever worry that you're going to get removed from the trenches, so to speak? Because
Mm,
I know I do constantly. Because prior to becoming a developer advocate, I worked at 10 Up with Jake Goldman, and I was there for 6 years, and I was doing like the cutting edge development stuff. And then so I brought some of that to my role, but now it's like I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just so like I feel like my my
Mm.
trench experience is just sort of like um
mm.
dropping off. I don't know. Does that worry you
It's
at all
a
about like being more focused as a content creator than like an agency owner or someone that's, in the
Yeah.
battles doing it?
it's a concern. Matt and I talk about it all the time over on his channel, just because like I'm constantly navigating that. Because me personally, like I love the content. Like it's probably the thing I love more than even the strict agency stuff. But again, that's always in the back of my mind. Like I don't want to leave that. You could definitely do it. You know what I mean? Like there's millions of people. If we expand outside the niche of WordPress, there's a ton of people out there that built something and now they sell info. You know what I mean? And like
Hmm.
there is a lifespan, I feel like, on that, because you can't, like, if your industry's changing really heavily, you can't, you maybe only have like 5, 6, 7 years to do that, or whatever the timeline would be. Um, so I'm not like worried about it, but it is something that I'm cognizant of. And I don't know. I mean, there's options. You could go into like a product thing where you're still very close to the same people. You're still interacting with them all the time. I see that as an off ramp. Um, but yeah, I mean, the content is just the king though. Like if you can do the content, like if you can do all the stuff we're talking about, or like it's such an advantage, as I feel like we all know, because we're all doing it all the time. So.
Hmm. Yeah, I found one of my I had a series that I did called Bring Me Your Issues, and it was like literally I
Mm.
had a GitHub repo where people would go and create issues and be like, I don't know how to do this, or how would you build this? And it was just I would build that out. And that was really great because I can do the development stuff. I've been a developer for whatever, like 20 years, right? I almost said 30 years, which is terrifying to even
Mm.
think that. It's not true, but it's also terrifying. But 2004 is when I started, okay? Uh, but I felt like that was getting me back closer into being in the trenches they're like, solo developers, they're agency owners, they're people working for agencies, whatever, that are like, I don't know how to build X. And so being able to have that as the like to have the inspiration and then apply what I know because I'm so close to the development of WordPress and stuff like that. I found that to be really, really powerful.
That's a good
So
way to
And
simulate it for sure.
yeah.
yeah, I missed out about the outreach program. That's like how I started doing YouTube videos, and like seeing the power of that is because the FSC outreach program, I was so deep in it, whether it was like filing issues, running a report, I could see all the edges of it and how to talk about the feature, what it could do, what it could not do, like that sort of deep dive, um, and like content people wanted to see, like what is happening with patterns, how do I actually use them, what's the difference between that and template parts. Like I think one of my top videos is like the difference between template parts, synced patterns, and unsynced patterns, or
Yeah.
something like that. Like it's just kind of like stuff that kept reoccurring questions that kept coming up, that now I don't have access to that resource anymore. Ray, do you have like a submission form? Like, do people ever say like, can you write about X? Or like, do you have anything similar to what Ryan was describing, or like the comments that Mark was describing?
Yeah, I get emailed all the. I have a contact form on my site. I'm
Mhm.
on all of the Slacks. I'm on like 20 different Slack
Oh gosh.
accounts. And people reach out to me everywhere. Email, contact form, Slack, social media, various social media accounts. I'm very
Wow.
accessible. Um, WordPress Slack and Post Status Slack are probably where I'm the most active. Um, yeah, people send me ideas all the time. I can't do everything. I'd love to. But yeah, finding content ideas, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Just having chat. I mean, yeah, just talking to people, and Slack makes it so easy to reach out. Everybody's on WordPress Slack. It's easy just to, ping someone and ask a question. Yeah.
I know I've been one of those people. It's like, hey, this roadmap's coming out. Heads up. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to know that. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. Matt, do you have any thoughts to share here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the content that we do, like the through line from the years of doing this has always been, the podcast and interviewing people who are, doing and making things with WordPress, whether that's a product company, a services company, or interviewing somebody like Devin who just joined to lead Jetpack. That's pretty consistent with, the stuff that we've worked on. biggest challenge for me is really actually removing myself from the content creation and building a team of people who make their own decisions and editorial decisions on like what they're going to either write about or interview, and it's largely like Eric Karkovac. You know, but bringing up like the in the trenches thing before, like I ran an agency for a decade, but that was about a decade ago, and I want to get back into talking to agency owners because I think it's important and sort of like the North Star for us is moving forward is to like support the adoption of WordPress for folks to build sites and create things with. And I wanted to talk to agency owners again, and I didn't want to be the one who did it because I haven't done it. So we launched the Agency Action podcast, and that was me like recruiting talent with air quotes and finding people that I thought would be really great to host a podcast that are running agencies day to day that can sort of answer and ask those questions about like the WordPress agency owner. And sort of pivoting not fully away from WordPress news because it's a very difficult business, as one other person on this call can attest to. Our content now is about education and still informing folks, but also educating how they can adopt WordPress into their business. So those are sort of how we come up with content ideas and some of the challenges that at least I particularly go through.
Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting to hear about. Especially, I know this actually ties in really well to the next question because Matt, I think you're the first person I've heard talk about this where it's like, how big is the WordPress news like segment of people following? And so like my next question actually relates to this is like, what do you do to reach outside of WordPress? Are you trying to? What is that like? What are your thoughts around, yeah, just like how it is to be in the content creation space within WordPress? And I think it is really interesting. I've long wondered how we can reach outside of and get people, whether it's a generational thing, getting people, younger folks excited about open source, or like how much cool stuff is still happening, even though it's such a old project. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Do you
mean,
mean like reach outside to get people interested in WordPress? Is that what you sort of what the
Yeah, or
question is?
just like
Sorry to cut you
outside of
off, Matt.
WordPress audiences, like, like thinking about, general tech, or maybe
Hmm.
it's like agency space or business owners or whatever, like people using AI tools to get into coding, like how, like kind of reaching into more tangential audiences outside of, I think, Matt, you've talked about it being like 10,000 people or something like that. It's like the inner WordPress inside baseball news.
yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think if I'm giving advice to somebody who wants to be a WordPress content creator, it's, number one, WordPress doesn't have to be the hammer that hammers all the nails, right? It can be, it should be looked at as something that is, could be great for your, particular use case, but it's not going to solve everything for you, and probably nor should it. So be open-minded, right, to have conversations with either other CMS platforms or folks, right, or building different solutions, and just like have that open mind to be able to have those conversations first and foremost, right? So already like just be thinking outside the box, I guess, right off the bat, and try to find the folks that you think are breaking new ground. It's sort of how I approach a lot of the stuff is like when I saw Mark come onto the scene, it's just like I will immediately reach out to this person who is asking questions about WordPress in the community and invite them on to have those talks. And I do this across a lot of other like technologies as well, Ghost, Wix, Webflow, Statamic, like all these other like CMS, and just like bring them in to have those conversations to see how it unfolds. And then there's like, pockets of mediums that work really well. And YouTube's probably the best for that, to reach those new audiences and maybe reach a younger demographic. And then when you mix in like AI into WordPress, like now you're reaching so much more in terms of people who are just like interested in AI and like, oh, what's this WordPress thing? Or, oh, I didn't really think about AI in the context of WordPress. So that pairs up really well. And then I would probably say like, maybe the untapped opportunity is like WooCommerce and e-commerce. Like when you look at like Shopify And if you look at Shopify and like just like the pockets of community there of people who are just like, there's so many, like, if you're in the podcast space and you evaluate a lot of this stuff, there's so many like podcasts that are like talking about like the side hustle of Shopify. And then there's like Shopify for, 7 and 8 figure stores only, right? Like podcasts. And like there's so many different like avenues to reach out and cooperate with WooCommerce and like the whole greater e-commerce space. So yeah, that's sort of how I see like bridging that gap.
Yeah, it's cool. I've also seen Figma do some really cool stuff. Like I've been trying to mess around with Figma more, and there's some really cool content creators with Figma that just touch so many different areas. Like I was shocked at how big the audiences were and the impact, which is cool. Like it didn't feel like talking about Figma. It felt like talking about what they were actually doing with it, which I think is can be hard to do. Yeah, Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot because I know you run a Discord community too. Um, like
Yeah.
how, talk to me about that. And if does it feel like you're reaching outside of WordPress? Does it feel like, I feel like you do run into an audience, like you've brought feedback into the Gutenberg repo that's like, hey, this came up in Discord, this person,
Yeah.
whatever, which is awesome.
I
Like sometimes we need that kind of outside.
yeah, I think there's reaching outside of WordPress and there's well, maybe it's more like reaching outside the cool kids club in WordPress, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Like there's a group of people that hang out in all the places, attend all the events. They're all predominantly positive about WordPress and what's coming and all that stuff. And then there's the entire group of people that are outside of that may not like the direction of the project at all times, and certain individuals in the project and all that stuff, without getting into all of that negativity. But they're also the ones that are like working with WordPress on a day-to-day basis, and so having conversations with them is interesting. Like one of my first experiences in a Discord that was wildly toxic, and I think Discord is just kind of a wildly toxic place, and but there was a lot of like, and this is more of like developer advocate more than content creator, but there was a lot of information in there that maybe was presented in not the best way, but there was real nuggets of information and knowledge that like, oh yeah, no, that's a real pain point, that's a real problem and stuff. And so um I think maybe sometimes as a content creator, you're able to get into those groups to sort of bring more people into the fold of sort of like the mainstream WordPress. I'm not explaining this very well, but I think you know what I'm saying. There's like the people that are pro WordPress all the time, which is great. But then if you're creating content for those people, you're sort of just preaching to the choir. And I think the purpose is to like maybe start talking to people that do not want to do a certain thing in WordPress. Like perfect example, when the build process for custom blocks was released, lots of people were like, "This is great," but there was a lot of other people that were like, "I hate this. Why do we need this? This is stupid. I don't want to do this. I hate this." And so like the role of creating content around why it's like why it's helpful and why you can benefit from using it is like a huge market of people to cater to, if that makes sense. And that's just like one thing. Like, and this is very much because my role as developer advocate is to get out there and talk to people and get information and bring it back and try to do something with it. So when I create content, it's very much around like education and knowledge and being like, hey, did you know that you can actually do this now? And it's not as horrible as you think it is because you don't like change or or whatever the reason is, right? So um, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely makes sense to me.
does anyone experiment with like like beyond like TikTok and all the real short like the shorts sort of platform? Like I have YouTube Shorts, but TikTok is eluding me. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, I posted a short every day for 150 days, but it wasn't specifically WordPress related content. I did it all. I did it across platforms on YouTube,
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Um, I think my current mental framework around that and how I'm going to be adjusting that approach moving forward is that the content that we produce is educational in nature. It's not entertainment like a lot of content on YouTube is, or even, Twitch or whatever, right? Like gaming content as in a comparison for you, Ryan. So it's educational and it's generally long form. Like they could be shorter, but they're not they're not that short. So we're talking generally maybe like 15, 20, 30 minutes. We need to the focus and the utility of the short is to be like quick and like get them to like get their attention. And on YouTube specifically, if you do YouTube shorts, you can do a related video. So you could have like a longer form video and you can have like a little button at the bottom, be like, this is just like a little quick highlight reel. And if you can get their attention with that 30 seconds while they're scrolling, maybe you can get them to click to that longer form video. But the problem with short form is it's just like it takes so many times to like actually get in front of them. And people have different schools of thought on it. So um, I don't know if there's really an answer there, but I'm going to probably be trying to do a little bit more of that where if I post a longer form conversation or a longer form tutorial, I'm going to try to tease whoever sees it just with some short form and then get them to go to the long form. But I don't know. There's probably a market for like how to build a custom WordPress block in 30 seconds or, in 60 seconds. Maybe that might be something cool to do. Might be worth a experimentation there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. What was our question here?
Reaching outside of work, but we can also have so many questions. I want to be mindful too of other people on the call if they want to ask questions, because otherwise I will just keep going.
Yeah.
So if folks have anything they want to ask or jump in and share their experiences too.
Hell yeah.
Well, I'll share an experience. Sorry, my name's Derek. I jumped on here later. I was on a
All
other
good.
call for a little bit longer than anticipated.
Mm.
But on the TikTok short form side of things, I actually had a pretty interesting experience happen recently. Um, One form of content that I make is music. It's been a big passion. I see the guitars in your background, Ryan, so seeing me feel that same way. And I found that obviously music drives that platform like no other medium, I think, in terms of like the content there, because it becomes this like community side thing. So I wrote this golf inspired song because there's so many people on the app that there are these communities, really tight knit communities. And I knew that if I made this piece of content that they would then use in their video, it would just like spread like wildfire. And that's kind of what happened actually at the start of this year. And it kind of built a community around these new relationship with these other creators. And then I was able to then bring them into other, partner deals or whatnot. But basically, I engaged that audience through an original audio content, I guess, and then like sold it to something else. So if that helps kind of bring some ideas in terms of the TikTok from a short form perspective. But yeah, that's the way that I approached it.
Great
Very
idea.
Yeah, and it's became, I think, the #1 golf song on TikTok or something. I don't
So
know.
funny. That's wild.
Nice.
Yeah, it's called Grip It and Rip It, which if you're a golf fan, it's a famous quote from John Daly, and and people use it now in all of their videos going forward, and it's brought a lot of connections and community and a lot of creators in that space together.
I get served a lot of golf content. I've probably heard it.
Yep, probably. And it's country, so I don't know how everybody feels about that. I personally like country, so and I know a lot of the golf community loves that genre as well. So it was kind of really fun putting that together. But again, I think with anything, sort of kind of go on about this, I think with anything with a platform like that, and I think that going at it maybe from a musical standpoint is, I think, a very unique thing to kind of get the word out. So I guess bringing it back to WordPress, it'd be the example of someone put together some sort of WordPress song or something like that, that isn't just like, hey, this is how you do A, B, and C, but doing it in a new creative way where that on that platform that is in tuned for that type of content, right?
I think Nick Hamsey did a song or something. I'm trying to find it. I can't find it quickly. But Nick Hamsey is someone who I think enjoys that kind of provocative, different way of creating things. I also think of like Temmie Lister's October, like doing a short on each of those could have been an each interesting way to do it. Like something really contained. Look at this like block I built. Here's the prompt. Here's the outcome. Here's me playing with it. Like that kind of um, quick content, I think is pretty cool. Um, Especially if it's solving something real. I still have dreams of doing something with the Block Museum and like doing something on the future. I just like, to me, side projects. Not enough time. I'm curious because this kind of, you touched on this a little bit, Derek, but one of the things in my mind with like this call and like the content creators channel that I don't think we've been able to figure out very well within WordPress. I don't know how other communities do it, but just the building community within content creators and that kind of like cross collaboration. I have a book somewhere that talked about the early days of YouTube, which is part of what inspired me to get like more pushing on this. Um, is that kind of, yeah, community building and how that actually helps get the word out more. Like there's this like self-fulfilling positive feedback loop where you can get introduced to different people on different channels. I follow a lot of weird like World's Strongest Man stuff. And so they're always on different channels and it like leads me to different things. Um, and like that kind of like, oh, it's so cool to see this creator working with this creator and like what they talk about. But yeah, I'm curious to hear from you all like what you think might be, this is a selfish question, but yeah, like what can I do differently? What could we do differently? Um, how can we build like stronger connections there?
Mm.
Or it's just a hard problem to solve. I think we tried a number of things, but yeah.
I mean, I think your content creators channel is a good step in the right direction. I think I would probably flip the question though, um,
Mm.
and be like, how has that? I mean, I've seen it, but have you like? There's a lot of people in there, so like, I mean, do you feel like there is starting to be a little bit of a sense of a community at all, or do you think that
Mm.
is there any common thread between the creators, or did you like how was I would say what's the initial litmus
I
test of
Yeah, like for me, part of it is like I'm obsessed with the WordPress release cycles. So part of it is I'm really curious to see how 6.9 goes. Because to me, part of how I got started in this was like the outreach program and then doing the sources of truth, which were meant for educators, content creators, plugin authors, like everyone. It's like anyone who's trying to stay up to date with what's happening in WordPress. Here's like a no BS, very factual, like no fluff guide to the release because oh my God, it is so hard to dig through everything. And like I found that like, we were all doing it. And so it's like, here it is. It's right here. This is the top things. This is how it ties in. This is why it matters. And so I'm hopeful that, we can see some momentum, like people sharing drafts, or I'm thinking about doing this idea for 6.9. Like I haven't been seeing a lot of sharing or I had this idea, can I bounce it off of someone? Or like, I created this piece of content. Does anyone have feedback? I don't feel very good about it. Or that kind of like behind the scenes stuff, which is more vulnerable and like more risky. But like I think that's in my mind, that's where I like think it's really cool. And that's something I really liked about the outreach program was kind of sharing like, hey, what do you all think about this? And throwing things out there. Combined with ideally, like I don't know how else to say this, but it's like you all are very busy and ideally like I would love to be asked questions. Like I'm not getting asked a lot of questions about like what's going on, what's coming, especially on like the product side. Like I think that's always something that there's a lot of cool things happening in WordPress and I would love to be like a source of like cutting edge information so that you can feel confident in talking about something and it can be like cool and interesting and different. And we can have that kind of this cool new thing came into WordPress and now we have 20 people talking about it. Yeah, Elliot, tell me.
I was gonna say I did ask a question about the templates, which I was really excited about, but they kind of got punted. So I was like, I did a
I
whole
know.
video.
Yeah, you did ping me about that. That was great. Yeah.
But annoyingly, I did a whole kind of 10-minute video on it and reviewing it and stuff. So I thought I was just going to time it really nicely with 6.9 release, but got punted. So maybe I'll save that in the background. But I don't know how much it's going to change because I'm focusing on some of the real detail. So, but yeah, I
It
mean,
will change. Yeah.
yeah, those are the kind of things that I think showing people, under the hood, this is what's coming, or this is how you do stuff, because that's a real improvement for me.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, but I don't know what people are expecting, but it's really hard. I think in the early days, for me, it was like finding detail on blogs, Justin Tadlock doing stuff and there was information I had to do stuff with WordPress, and that was
Mhm.
really kind of like the community kind of went wild with that. Um, but things have just got so much easier. I mean, Jamie Marsden, probably the pinnacle of kind of like success. He showed people what you can do with the block editor, and he's got lots of momentum from that. And I think there's an appetite for that. I come from a developer background, so I'm interested in exploiting that and educating people in that sense, but very much the same as Ryan does. But yeah, it's difficult to know. I mean, I run the local meetup as well. Finding people that think like me or want to know information like I do is difficult. So you kind of have
Mhm.
to be very broad with the information. So yeah, it is difficult to try and find what people want, I think. But yeah, I did ask about the templates. I was really disappointed that it's not coming out, but there you go.
You and
So
me
sad.
both. It solves so many things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually, that's a good reminder too, as like 7.0. I'm already thinking about 7.0, and like there's stuff that's been punted that I know is like on my mind, and there's stuff that's already being started on that is on my mind. That I think it's like maybe that's like a cool between like 6.9 coming out and kind of talking about content there, and then also like ramping up for 7.0. I can be a bit more vocal and sharing stuff as it like ramps up. I think Ray, that's actually I pinged you about like the 6.9 roadmap draft, and that might be a cool thing to share early as I work on 7.0 to get into the hands of content creators. Be like, hey, this is what's being thought about from the contributors, because it's so. I think that that's the piece that I'm trying to fill personally. Is like I want there to be easy access to compelling and accurate information that like makes your jobs easier and makes it like
Yeah.
more fun to talk about WordPress. Like honestly,
Yeah.
you know.
100%. I mean, getting access to things like that early really helps us because, there's no point us publishing content after it's already happened because then it's old and nobody cares. So
Yeah.
knowing when something's coming and I guess especially with 7.0, already looking to 7.0 and that ramping up, knowing as early as possible what's being considered and what's coming up, like that'll be really helpful for us. But as far as the content creators channel goes, I think it's early days, and I think that's just going to snowball eventually. It's just going to take time. And I ping you every now and again, but I'll definitely ping you more.
Please, yeah.
Particularly with the role that you have now, like that's really helpful for us to know to come to you as a source of information, and because you're across everything that's going on.
Yeah, and I'm very much like transparency by default, to a fault sometimes. like I like to link to things. I like to have sources for myself. Like that's just kind of how I communicate is like I want to talk. If I don't know, I won't know. I will say I don't know, but like I will link to as many things as I can and like make sure if some communication's not happening, let's like make it happen so it makes your jobs easier too. Um, because yeah, I see us all like it's great that we're building stuff, but people don't know about it. Like we're in the age now where people need to know about it and need to know why it matters and like need to know quickly and need to be set up well. um yeah, I don't know, I'm really passionate about this. Like this truly is like so far, Ryan can tell you, is so far outside my like day-to-day job. And it to me that's like a reflection of like how much I think it's important that we do this, and like maybe it does just take time, but please know I like really welcome feedback and ideas and like what would be more meaningful. I want to be boots on the ground, and want to be accessible as possible. So I'll stop my side tangent on that. Um, yeah.
I could just
Well,
add a little bit to that. I
oh,
think
Yeah, please.
this goes back to like one of the challenges of like the 10,000 people who care about like what's happening with WordPress, and then like how do we reach people who are outside of
Mhm.
WordPress? And I think there's like many extremes in like what I call the WordPress media landscape, and uh, there's probably two people who want to write about the state of the word, and we're both on the call right now. And then there's people who want to like show off a cool new feature from some plugin that's going to give them a 60% affiliate kickback, and that's largely in that YouTube pool. And you know this is why one of the thing this is why I was really excited about Media Core, which has been sort of set to rest now. I think there's just like two extremes of like who are WordPress content creators who want to write about the impact of WordPress and the community and what that means, to, you know, and that trickle down effect to either agencies or like other community members or other content creators. And then, you know, my own advice is like, when you look at like top performing, say YouTube is a is a place where you can measure the metrics more visibly with like views and subscribers, so long as that channel is not buying them, which I just put out a podcast episode on. And it's an easy way to say like what's popular and what's not, because you visibly have those stats. You know, those top performing YouTube channels are just solving the problems for the average WordPress user, and that's why they perform well, because there's millions of people that use, you know, that use WordPress that have their own like struggles, and they're taking to YouTube to get those answers. And then it all starts to concentrate down to those, you know, 10,000 people of like what's happening at State of the Word, you know, or the next WordCamp, right? So this funnel gets really finite as it goes down. You know, so it's either looking at it from the lens of like what types of content should folks be creating. Do they consider themselves a content creator? Like, there's a lot of people who just go to YouTube who want to be content creators, and they do things like A/B test and thumbnail creation and SEO and what's the best hook and the title and the cadence of the video. And then there are people who just love to create content for WordPress as like a side thing and as like a fun thing. And then there's people, again, like just speaking for myself, who really look at WordPress as a impactful piece of software for the freedom of publishing, and the freedom of content. And we want to analyze that and say, here's how this is impacting. Here's how maybe decisions at the top or features coming in are impacting the software, which then impacts you as a publisher or you as an agency owner. So it's like all these different like pockets of like impact and types of content that should be evaluated. So it's not an easy thing to answer, you know, as you preface before you ask the question.
Yeah, and I know the media core like that. I was involved with that effort as well, in the same kind of role of like, how can I get information for folks? And I want to learn from that too. So like, if there's things that y'all really liked about that or didn't like, you know, like I'm making this up as I go. I want to be mindful of time. We just have 4 more minutes. Does anyone have any final question? If not, I have one that we can close off on. Topher, I can't hear you. Hate when that happens.
Probably wrong mic.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me now?
Yep.
Yay. Apparently my cool microphone's not set up right. So I don't really have a vision of the purpose of this group, the channel. I thought this today was just going to be content creators getting together to talk about content. I didn't realize it was a panel. Where can I learn more?
Drop the link, because I love to drop a link. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
It's a combination of things. So it's like building community, getting feedback loops, which you haven't done, which has always been kind of a pain point of mine, increasing awareness, and then like overall growing adoption for WordPress. And yes, I did just briefly read off of those bullet points I wrote previously, but yeah, no, I mean, honestly, the other thing is with these hallway hangouts, I wanted one to happen earlier. There was some like scheduling snafus, but I'm hoping to do more of these. So like this was more of a rigid format than probably future ones will be, but I just for some reason thought it would be cool to hear from different specific mediums, because it's just such a different perspective, and kind of like Matt, what you're talking about, where there's these different layers of people touching different things. But yeah, the whole point is to build community amongst content creators and provide resources. And then ideally my dream and my hope, because I've gotten really good feedback from content creators about like, oh my God, we need responsive controls. And I'm like, which one? And someone's like, I got 10 comments about X, Y, and Z today. And I'm like, got it. like that source of feedback from folks far outside who are never going to join WordPress Slack, I'm never going to run into, I think is really helpful too, to help shape the platform. Because you all are having to hear from the people about the pain points. Ryan's having to moderate Discord, like Mark, you're getting comments on stuff. Matt, you're talking to agency owners. Like Ray, you're probably getting tons of comments on posts about responsive controls or about like the Ollie menu plugin. Like there's just like the things that get traction are really interesting to me because I think it's a reflection of appetite that we don't normally get. And then it makes your job easier. It's like, okay, I wrote about this. It was a huge pain point, and now, boom, this is coming out in WordPress, whatever. Like it's just that's always going to be the case. But when it is, like, I want that loop to be really tight, and to be like, hey, I know your audience really cares about X, Y, and Z. We're working on this. Try it out. How does it work? Is it good? Here's a play around link so you can actually go play with it. We're doing a call for testing here. Do you mind amplifying it? Like reaching more people is like my pipe dream. And like getting that feedback in community and getting new content creators also like connected to folks who are doing content creation and having that kind of collaboration. So I don't know, it's a rambling answer, but does that kind of make sense, Topher? Cool. Yeah, that was a good.
I got a question too.
Yeah.
And so obviously I think my perspective is I'm a complete newcomer to this channel. Like obviously I just got on, gone on there maybe like a week ago. And then
Awesome.
I also, I guess, made a mistake by posting about the wrong thing or
No,
whatnot.
you're totally good.
I guess because I was, showing my plugin based on for the creator community. But I guess, there's so many channels in the Slack organization, and then knowing what to put where was kind of not ill. I mean, it wasn't very defined. And then, I was looking at previous history. There wasn't a lot of stuff there. So maybe, obviously now talking to you is great. Maybe posting videos in there or something of just showing the personality of you and then kind of talking about what could be put in here on some sort of cadence in a way. Cause I kind of felt like I came to this thing and I was like, what should I put here in a way? And I was like, oh, this is me. And this was an introduction. But then that was like, not, at first it was like, oh, wait, this is the creator thing. I'm like, oh, well, I'm also a creator. That's what led me to this thing.
Yeah.
So that was where I kind of felt, I don't know, it wasn't immediately clear to me what to put here, and I don't know if that's how everybody else felt, but I think
No,
if you're a
that's
person who wears
such good
multiple
feedback.
hats,
Yeah.
you wear multiple hats. I'm like, well, what? I don't want to like be annoying to people, but I also want to share stuff that I think is valuable. So it's like that's the whole thing. And then if you're just reading text, you lose visual audio context that you need for like human understanding. So that's where you like don't really, that's where I felt. And that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, no, this is great. This actually reminds me, I used to have an intro ping. So whenever someone would join the FSC outreach program, it would ping them. This is what this channel is. Here are the resources. Here's how to get involved. I need to set that up. They've turned it off, or you could just create it. Now you have to have admin access, because I found a loophole with that. But yeah, I think adding in an intro ping is a really good thing. I have shared videos of stuff in progress, but not as much as I need to. So I'm going to do that more. I think doing more of the hallway hangouts and then potentially adding in more like Slack structure of like, not rules of engagement, but like, yeah, here are the things that are helpful to share. Here are people you can ask questions of. Like here are some of the developer advocates whose literally full-time job is to do like we could kind of curate maybe some like more clear resources. That's really helpful. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah,
just to
so that's
add
really
on
good.
that, I think because like what I want to do in there is like there's probably people on this call that I want to connect with. And so maybe there's a way to show like in the channel, like, hey, Derek and Matt connected and did this together. And then that shows everybody else that like, and we kind of like revel in that as a community, because I feel like if you show that working together and like cross collaboration across different mediums or whatever the case is, then that's shown in the community and that's like also rewarded in some way. Well, I think lead more people to do that, which at the end of the day, everybody wins that scenario, like WordPress advocates, creators, and then cross collaboration,
Yeah, that could be a cool, like, or even like asks for collaboration. Like right now, I've been trying a weekly ping that's like, share your draft, share what's in progress. But like, I could also add something that's like, are you looking for a collaborator? This is a place to be. Like, make, like list out what you're trying to look to collaborate on, or like what kind of audience you want to go on. Like, I think that could be a cool way of approaching it. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it, Derek. And thanks for, I hate being the like Slack, like, no, but yeah, it's like, it's one of the weird rules about the WordPress org Slack space. And I appreciate you like assuming positive intent and having a back and forth. I know it can be hard when you don't hear my voice. And yeah, I appreciate you joining today too. I think it's
No
really
problem.
awesome. Yeah. Sweet. I'm gonna wrap up, partially because my girlfriend is standing outside the door and is trying to be respectful. But this was really lovely to chat. I will post this on YouTube and probably post it to my personal site. But maybe we'll post it on MakeCore. I should post it on MakeCore as I'm saying this out loud. I can just be shy. This is the introvert in me. But thank you all for joining and for having this conversation. And like, let's keep the feedback and ideas coming. Like, this is exactly the whole point of the channel. And I always just appreciate everyone's time. You could be doing 1,000 other things. So thanks for being here. I'll see you all
Thanks,
in
Ann.
Slack.
Thanks for having us.
Bye,
Thanks,
y'all.
Anne.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
everyone.